Crunchyroll. You had to go and do it, didn't you? You had to go and dig your own grave when you had just come up with such a good announcement only a couple of weeks ago. What is up, guys? It is Galeriot here. Welcome back to 59 Animanga. We are here with a little bit of an update news on Crunchyroll and the topics that have been going around quite often in recent weeks. The Crunchyroll has been in the news quite a lot. I mean, if you look at the past couple of anime news weeklies, they've been in at least 2 out of the 3 or 4. It's crazy. There's a lot to dissect, and of course what I'm going to be talking about today is something that they addressed the day after I recorded Anime News Weekly, hence why that piece of news wasn't in there. And I want to give my reactions, my thoughts, and generally just thoughts from other people in 5/9 as well that I've been talking to, people like Stacy, Hydros, and so on and so forth, right? But before we get in, of course, leave a like if you enjoyed this video and comment down below what did you guys think of the news piece that came out. And if you haven't, of course, once you watch this video, let me know what you guys think, because I'm very curious to see what you guys think. Where would you place this in the whole grand scheme of things, of course, right? Because it's not as simple as it's definitely not as simple as one's right and one's wrong, right? There's a lot of like pros and cons for us as the viewer and them as a business, which I want to get into and give my thoughts on as well, saying if it's a good thing overall or a bad thing. It is definitely the latter, but it's good to have a discussion at the very minimum, and I'll give my honest thoughts, I promise. So I want to give up a timeline, a little bit of a timeline for this whole situation that happened. And a couple of weeks ago, this was on March 11th, basically two and a half weeks ago, Crunchyroll and Funimation declared that they were going to be merging both streaming services. It would be under one platform. Almost every anime from Funimation will be transferring over to Crunchyroll. I think they said around 80% initially. Not everything is going to transfer over, but the idea was great. I absolutely loved the idea. I remember making the short for it on the 5/9 channel. I remember talking about it in Anime News Weekly. I remember talking about it generally to other people as well, and I genuinely thought it was a fantastic idea. I thought it was a fantastic idea initially, but a lot of people had their concerns, and correctly so, because not everything is going to be perfect in life. Absolutely not. And people were concerned about them picking up less anime, possibly not shifting over everything, which we now know they didn't shift everything. But on top of that, the whole idea of a monopoly is never a good thing. Now, my counter argument to that, and the reason why I thought, it was redundant at this point, is because Funimation and Crunchyroll were anyways owned by the same company even before they unified into one streaming service, right? And this should have happened ages ago. Now, initially, when they first announced that, Crunchyroll was going to be owned by the same company that owns Funimation, that point we were kind of like, okay, there's a bit of a monopoly going on here, and not everything is perfect, right? And obviously now we've looked at a lot of other streaming services grow and rise up. You have the likes of Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, HiDive, and so on and so forth. There's so many options out there. Obviously none of them are perfect. We know what's been happening with Netflix and JoJo's. We know that Hulu and Amazon Prime don't have necessarily the best catalog of shows as well. So a lot of people's aim, and or not aim per se, sorry, but a lot of people's go-to streaming service is Crunchyroll for the most part, right? It's so widely known in the West at this point, and it is the go-to, literally. So for me, them getting more anime and everything was a fantastic idea. I absolutely backed it. A lot of people may had their concerns about it, but even so, generally a lot of people, I would say, had positive responses to it, right? And we were all very much looking forward to it. The problem is, recently, obviously this is something that we discussed in the Anime News Weekly, was that Crunchyroll announced last Thursday, from the time of this recording, that there would be around 60 plus shows leaving the service on March 31st, which is basically in 3 days from the time of this recording. And that's where things start to get a little bit questionable, right? For me, I don't like anime leaving a platform necessarily. You've paid for the service, you better hope that you can have access to a lot of anime, if not every anime. And the way they did it was even weirder because there's so many shows in this list that have other seasons that are still in Crunchyroll streaming service, but the older seasons are gone. Like Snafu, for example. I'm looking at Snafu, for example, and Danmachi. Is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? Danmachi has season 2, season 3, season 4 is coming in the summer, and Snafu obviously has its third and final season still on Crunchyroll, and for some reason the original seasons are going. I think there's a couple more as well. Food Wars, for example, as well. That's another one that I would say obviously has more seasons, but they're just deleting the first season, so and second season of course as well. So to me, they're like kind of confusing. Obviously it does say that High Dive is streaming most of the above titles as well, so if you want to, you can go to High Dive, or you can go to, I know somebody mentioned in one of the comments from the Anime News Weekly that Umaru-chan was also on Amazon Prime, and that's fine and all, right? Like, that's fantastic. But the idea is that you're paying for a service and it has the final seasons and like the additional seasons, but it doesn't have the original seasons. So if you want to do a rewatch or you want to start a show, you have to start from the final season. That doesn't make any sense. And I understand from a business perspective that they don't want to pay for the licensing anymore. It's as simple as that, right? They just don't want to pay for the licensing anymore, especially now that they don't have Funimation and Crunchyroll, where, you know, they can take advantage of two subscription services. So people have to pay for two things. Now they have to only pay for one. That does add to a point where, you know, Crunchyroll might be deliberating between like, okay, we have to maybe pick and choose our anime, you know, maybe you have to let go of some anime as well. We can't license all of them necessarily. And to me, I understand that from a business perspective, like I said, right? You look at even racing games or any other, like just games in general. Racing games are the perfect example though. Racing games like, so Microsoft for Forza Horizon 5 or any other Forza Horizon or Motorsport, they have to pay the car companies a licensing fee to have their cars in the game. After a point when the sales decline, they have to let go of the licensing, and therefore the game gets delisted from every store. It's a similar concept here. You pay for the licensing, and then if you see that, you know, it's not generating enough revenue, you let go of it entirely and it doesn't remain on the streaming service at all. I personally believe, I'm willing to argue that, you know, a lot of anime fans, I understand that not everybody is willing to pay the price I'm about to say, but I do believe a lot of anime fans would be willing to, is if you are going to offer more shows, right? If you're gonna give us a lot of shows and you're gonna promise to keep the licensing for all of these shows, I am willing to give an extra $5 to $10 per month if need be, purely because I have access to all these shows now. I have access to the entire catalog of anime. There's a reason why people tend to, you know, go to other streaming services that are not necessarily the most legal, but that's the reason why, because they have the entire catalog there. I think there's so many websites like that that have like anime from the 1980s even, you know, and it's just like, why would you pay for a streaming service that doesn't have the entire catalog, or you have to pay for like multiple streaming services, and it just doesn't add up, right? I would love to support the content creators as in like the manga writers, the anime producers and everything for making these shows. But if there is no value, and you can't say that, oh yeah, I'm willing to pay $10 a month to watch just one show or maybe a couple of shows, it doesn't make sense. You're paying around $10 a month, which adds up to $120 a month, assuming you're on a monthly subscription instead of yearly. You're paying a monthly subscription and you're not getting everything you so desire, and or you're getting very half-baked stuff. I think that's the more important thing. You're getting half-baked stuff. You're letting go of like the first and second season, and you only have the third season onwards in the catalog, which doesn't make any sense. So to me, that's the first problem that they announced, and I wasn't the happiest about it, to be honest. I understand that there's obviously alternatives to it. Like I said, there's High Dive and Amazon Prime, but that doesn't make any sense. The day after, unfortunately for my recording purposes with Anime News Weekly, they announced that they are stopping ad-supported streaming starting with spring 2022 season. So this is going to be basically something that they start from next week onwards, basically. And I want to go through this article so that we get a bit of an idea, right? Crunchyroll announced on Friday that it will no longer offer ad-free supported free ad-supported viewing starting with its spring 2022 season lineup. Crunchyroll will instead require that viewers have a subscription to access new and continuing simulcasts. The first 3 episodes of the following spring 2022 titles will be available for free ad-supported viewing for a limited time until May 31st. You can see right here. It's Spy Family, A Couple of Cuckoos, The Dawn of the Witch, Tomodachi Game, Skeleton Knight in Another World, Shikimori is Not Just a Cutie, The Greatest Demon Lord is reborn as a typical nobody, and trapped in a dating sim, The World of Otome Games is tough for mobs. The first 3 episodes of each title will be available for ad-supported viewing until May 31st. Subsequent episodes, as well as other titles in the spring 2022 simulcast lineups, will be available to view with a premium monthly or annual subscription. Crunchyroll confirmed that with continuing anime, ad-supported viewing will not be available with episodes starting with the spring season, but episodes prior to the spring season will be available. Crunchyroll previously allowed free ad-supported streaming for simulcast titles 1 week after an episode premiered. This is the biggest L I've seen in a long time, right? Because what you've done here is, now I understand that there's a lot of people who, share their accounts and, obviously have existing accounts. This doesn't necessarily affect them the most, right? This affects people who are willing to wait for like a week and then watch it freely, with ad-supported viewing. And it was a great addition. I think this was a fantastic piece of support. I would say support that Crunchyroll gave. I think that's the best way to describe it. It's a great advantage that Crunchyroll gave to a lot of anime viewers who didn't necessarily have the funds to watch these shows as a result. And the fact that they're just denying that to everybody is a huge yikes to me. Now, again, I'm gonna say the business perspective first before I give my perspective. The business perspective, I understand, because they've gone from having Funimation and Crunchyroll to only one. Again, kind of the same thing from what I said last regarding the last point that they had with them dropping 60 plus shows and not being able to pay all the licensing fees. But you've gone from 2 subs to 1 sub, basically 1 subscription per person, right? And that definitely is an inclination for them to, as a result, not necessarily increase prices, but remove the ability to share free viewing, I suppose is the best way to put it, right? And to me now, my personal thoughts is that it's a huge L. They're digging their own grave at this point, because in my opinion, I feel like this was one of the biggest things that they could have removed, and it's going to just force people to look at other alternatives, aka piracy and the high seas and illegal websites. And it's not necessarily a nice thing, right? Because everybody wants to support the creator in some way. If you're enjoying the show, there is a reason why a lot of people are willing to spend the money for watching these shows. And to be honest, I feel like this is just not right at all. I don't think this is right. Whatever Crunchyroll is doing, Sony, whoever owns them at this point, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really give a damn at this point. It's not the right decision. It is absolutely not the right decision whatsoever, and I feel like this is just restricting the thing is, anime in the West is already so difficult to access, and it's very difficult to get every show to air in the West, especially like hell, if I even go to the United Kingdom and I try and access Crunchyroll's website, there is absolutely nothing. Like there might be My Hero Academia in one season. I remember this because I was trying to watch a couple of different shows and I was thinking about getting the subscription for Crunchyroll, right? And obviously I have now alternatives to Crunchyroll, thankfully, but I remember trying to get the subscription for Crunchyroll, and I just looked at the catalog for the United Kingdom, and it is downright bad. There is nothing good in that list apart from like maybe 1 show or 2 shows. Like, as somebody who watches a lot of anime per season, I need a subscription service that gives me everything, and Crunchyroll tends to do that, right? But the problem is, if I'm in the United Kingdom, I'm only getting 2 shows out of, like, say, the 10 shows I'm watching. That's a fifth of the shows that I had planned on watching. That's not worth it to me at that point, right? I'd rather pay for something else and as a result, support the creators in other ways if possible, right? And this is the biggest issue for me. I think whatever Crunchyroll is doing, they need to look in the mirror and decide what they really want to do, because this isn't the right step at all. I definitely think that they need to make sure well, Sony's Funimation global group. Yeah, it's Sony. Sony is the one who owns Crunchyroll at this point. So yeah, I think they need to look at themselves for a bit and figure out what they need to do. Because I understand the merger was a fantastic idea for a lot of people and everything, and it makes them have like just one anime pillar. Works really well. But if this is their way of getting money out of all of us, I'm not backing it at all. I'm willing to even have a little bit of a, what's it called? A little bit of a, I'm willing to let go of a little bit. Like in this case, ad-supported viewing, for example, it'll not be available. It'll not be available at all right now. But originally, it was available 1 week after the episode premiered. Right? Make it 2 weeks. Make it a month after. As long as it's freely available after a point, I think that's fine. The problem is you're forcing people to spend on your subscription pass, and not a lot of people are willing to do that. I don't know, man. I have no idea what's gonna be happening anymore. You guys can let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about this whole situation, these 3 points? Personally, I'm not backing it at all. I don't know what they're doing. Well, I know what they're doing. I don't know how they're going to achieve this without heavy backlash. And I mean, a lot of people are already putting it on Twitter that they'll just use piracy, and it makes sense. It's just a shame that the people who will be negatively affected by this are, well, voice actors because their bills get paid from subscription services and everything, and then of course the anime producers and all like that. Those are the people gonna get affected the most out of all of us, right? And a already hard to access industry or entertainment format in the West is going to become even harder as a result of it, because you're going to have to spend money, and especially in the time we're living in right now, it's not the smartest idea, right? It absolutely isn't. I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think, of course, of this entire situation? Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more content like this, and I greatly appreciate all of y'all for tuning in. It's been Galeriot signing out. Bye bye, guys.